Hello, it's the Devil Joe coming back at you with another big project time! Big project time! Big project time! Hello, it's the Devil Joe back again with a brand new video. And today I'll be diving headfirst deep into the mechanics and depth of the blade that has tasted the blood of many demonic armies, leaving dozens of larger-than-life devils crying oceans of their own blasphemous blood, while screaming in absolute agony. The sword that has granted Dante full access to his demonic heritage twice in a row. A blade withstanding every single clash from the dimension-shattering Yamato. The Rebellion! This ranking is going to be a lot like the Yamato comparison video and the Devil Trigger comparison video, where I'll be going over each rebellion from Devil May Cry 2, Devil May Cry 3, Devil May Cry 4, Devil May Cry 5, to find out which game has the best rebellion. I'll even throw in the Devil Sword Dante in there, since it's Sparda and Rebellion combined into one sword, sharing a lot of the Rebellion's moveset and properties. Like the other comparison videos I've made, I'll be putting them into the following categories. Design, which one looked the best? Sound effects, which one sounded better? Crowd control, which one handled entire hordes the best? Damage, which claymore made them demons bleed out the hardest? After I finish up a category, I'll give it its own top 5. By the end of the video, I'll put up the definitive top 5 to award the winning claymore with the heavyweight Greatsword Championship Title. With that being said, kick back, relax, enjoy that slice of pizza. Time to usher in this crazy ranking! Starting off with design. I'll start off with the easier categories, then I'll progress to the deeper rounds later on in the video. Kicking off the aesthetics category is Devil May Cry 2, the Rebellion's first appearance. Let's just say it was handled dismally. First off, this thing looks lazily put together. In the last game, the default force edge was a larger-than-life broadsword. The thing was massive. Then the game handed over Alistair. Now that sword was nothing short of a girthy claymore. However, DMC2's Rebellion is nothing more than an overgrown toothpick. It's long, alright, accurate to the size of a real-life Zwinehander or claymore. At the same time, this is supposed to be a demonic sword, wielded by a meta-human, half-demon hybrid in a post-modern anime fantasy world. So at the very least, commit to the power fantasy fully. Not to mention the PS2 textures hurting the Rebellion's handle. Everything looks a bit too cluttered, not allowing you to get a look at any of the skeletal details. Next up, we have Devil May Cry 3's Rebellion, where they decided to keep DMC2's defining claymore, improving its overall design. First thing is first, the sword itself is not just long, but wide enough to be a park bench. Yup, teenage Dante smacking demons up with a sword that's as wide as a bench, probably at high G-forces. Ouch, that's gotta hurt the more you think about it, especially when we're talking about durable demons. Yet it leans beautifully in Devil May Cry's power fantasy. I absolutely love the sword tip design of putting in that groove, giving the sword a unique detail that isn't seen on other fantasy swords. Then we get the handle pommel to guard ratio. Is it cluttered here? Yes it is. But somehow it's really charming here. We have the Dormant Rebellion. No Devil Trigger attached to it. Hell, the guard is practically in sleep mode. Plus, the Demon Skull has its mouth shut. A lot like the Human Skull. The Demon Skull here is rocking tiny horns. Plus, the visible rib cage the handle is resting on. Not to mention the closed-off pommel. I like how it shows that there's power waiting to be awakened. Speaking of which, let's talk about the awakened form. The handle is now erect. I don't mean that sort of erect. The crossguard is protruding outwards, doing a better job of protecting Dante's wrists. The Demon Skull now has bulging red eyes, not to mention the wide open mouth gape, while the Human Skull has its whole mouth shut. Did I mention the demon side having bigger horns now? Representing Dante's boost in power. The pommel has been spread out. Check this, when you charge it up for a drive, Rebellion has this sick-ass red anime electrical glow to it. I mean, just look at the amount of power this thing comes with, making DMC3 Rebellion a visual representation of Dante's half-human, half-demon heritage that he's struggling with, while being one of the most heavy metal swords in all of gaming. Heading over to Devil May Cry 4, the first DMC to make it over into the HD era of video games, and Rebellion here takes full advantage of the new technological hardware. The thing is almost as tall as Dante is, plus that wide girth. I'd even argue it's wider than DMC3's sword. The groove tip is still here, and it's pretty. The human skull is closed wide shut, while that demonic skull still has that wide gape. That ribcage is well defined. That handle is solid. Plus that spiky pommel. It's nothing short of sharp. Once you hold that drive with an iron fist, the red anime glows brighter than it was in DMC3, and by extension my entire future as a whole. Plus the black lightning, making the sword look smoking sexy stylish. Speaking of the red glow, it can be found doing the stinger that turns into a direct black hole strike, since it looks like a deep wound in the universe. DMC4 keeps Rebellion's heavy metal aesthetics, enhancing it due to the jump in hardware. Next up is the pipe dream Devil May Cry 5, giving us a visual look at the Rebellion after 10 long years have passed. Powered by the 4K era of gaming, using the mighty RE engine to axe it off right at the start of the game. Just like Sparda, Rebellion did see a pretty drastic redesign. The overall silhouette of the blade still screams Dante's trusty keepsake. However, length and width-wise, it has been stripped down. It's not exactly his entire length. It's slightly shorter by a couple of inches. Width-wise, it's a lot like a standard claymore. That can be found at your local HEMA gym. Or if you can't find it where I'm at, there are a lot of Scalagram's videos, reminding me of DMC2's own Rebellion. I was personally disappointed by the size of the sword. I think they should have kept its wide girth. I know they wanted to save the length for the Devil Sword Dante, to show how much of a difference in power that blade has compared to good old Reliable. Having said that, I'm actually digging the new bells and whistles that have been added to Rebellion's aesthetic, like the more pronounced groove plus the Damascus detailing on the blade, revealing its structural integrity. It looks pretty sick, especially once the red anime glow is added, highlighting its wavier nature. The ribs are intact. Instead of them being a huge part engulfing the blade, it's attached to both sides, front and back, with a spinal cord coming out of it. A pretty nice touch to the sword. This won't be a Rebellion without the two-faced skull illustrating Dante's heritage. Part human, part demon, all that good shit. The demon skull still has that white gape. There's something different about these horns, I can't quite put my finger on it. Holy shit, they're coming out of the goddamn eye socket! Now that is metal as fuck! I like how creepy it looks, giving it an uncanny vibe, looking like something a demon knight would actually order. The human skull is really damn innocent looking, kinda like one of those baby skull candy logos. Wait, I just realized something again. The human skull hasn't been mewing lately. I mean, the lower jaw is practically missing, almost like it's embedded in the handle. The crown pommel is going in a circular pattern, with a spike at the center. The two-sided skull, handle, crossguard have that Art Deco-ish pattern going across them. Rebellion glows red like it did in DMC4. Each time you go for a stinger, there's just one thing missing. It's called lightning and drives. Overall, I thought DMC5's Rebellion might end up being a trashy design. Compared to the 4 one, I found it to be neck and neck with that Rebellion, despite losing the girth and length. DMC5 gave us immaculate details. In the same game, the wacky woohoo pizza man stabs himself with his broken Rebellion for it to fusion dance with the Sparda. For the Devil Sword Dante, showing up straight from his chest. Girthier and bigger than DMC4's Rebellion. Certainly girthier and bigger than the Devil Sword Sins. Anyway, DSD is supposed to be an amalgamation of Rebellion and Sparda, while being its own thing entirely. Design-wise, it pulls it off with flying colors. First off, it's like Sparda. It's covered in scales, lots of them. I know Sparda is mainly a huge sack of meat. With a blade, however, the whole thing, including the handle, is made up of scales. The edge around it comes in with the same Damascus detailing on the Rebellion. Hell, the crossguard is made up of 4 dragon fingers that are the SDT's toes. Whoever thought of this concept was nothing short of a madman. Like Rebellion, the pommel is spiked. This time around, the literal perfect amulet is the actual pommel crest. The amulet Dante and Virgil were fighting over in DMC3. One of the keys to hell, the perfect amulet. The Sparda Maker perfect amulet. The thing that unlocked the full power of Sparda is now a simple pommel accessory. A cool as fuck detail representing Dante surpassing his old man in power. That's not all for the sword's design. It opens up revealing a whole ass energy core, most likely used by Dante to play around with summon swords. I think it looks way better with the exposed core. I mean, look at it, shit looks fire as fuck. I love that design so much I went out and got a DSD that has an open core, just because I think it looks way cooler with that exposed core. DMC4's anime glow shines radiantly here, along with the red lightning of fury, letting out all the demonic energy into that one overdrive. Design-wise, Itsuno definitely cooked with this one. Now for the top 5 ranking of the design category. In the number 5 spot is Devil May Cry 2's Rebellion. I mean, look at it, it's an overgrown toothpick. In the number 4 spot is Devil May Cry 3's Rebellion. Though I really do like how it looks in DMC3 a lot. Like how beefy it is, the lit up eyes, on the skulls, how the overall ribcage looks, on the sword, along with the crown's irregular pattern. But I'm not gonna lie, the sword started looking better in later games. In the number 3 spot, we got Devil May Cry 4's Rebellion. In-game, this is an improved DMC3 Rebellion. All them details that game had are highlighted in much better HD detail, keeping that heavy metal aesthetic intact. In the number 2 spot is Devil May Cry 5's Rebellion. Despite it being a thinner sword than DMC3 and 4's Rebellion, it's a meticulously detailed claymore. Filled to the brim with grooves, Damascus lines across the blade, patterns through the handle and crossguard, making it go hard, fam. In the number 1 spot is the Devil Sword Dante. Reason being, I'm truly digging the look of this thing, being an evolution of Rebellion. While that sword was showing Dante's struggles with his demonic half, DSD shows how far the man has come. With that sword that might as well be tied into a devil trigger. Well, it pretty much is, showing how much the dude accepts who he is. Doesn't hurt that it's a fucking cool fantasy sword, opening up to reveal a core. That's a design that kicks tons of ass. Heading right over to the next category, and that's the sound effects. Kicking it off with Devil May Cry 2. The Rebellion sound effects are, let's just say, they be kinda mid. If I'm being 100% real with y'all, the wind slashes sound ridiculously light, almost making a sound that is comparable to what a broom would sound like when you're pretending it's a sword. No heft or any weight heard behind it. The whole thing sounds bland while being an uninspired paperweight. However, the sound effects of swinging it around in Devil Trigger is slightly improved a bit when we're talking about different elementals that are being conjured up while attacking. But it's nothing to write home about. When it comes to Devil May Cry 3, the sound effects tell a completely different story. Bruv, this thing right here is packing a ton of G-forces, outputted from every single slash, ending off with a skint at the end of each one. Oh my lord, they were cooking. Just have a listen to this. You can feel the sheer weight and heft of the sword through sound alone. Let's not forget about that helm breaker. Once that sword smacks the ground, you can hear the fury of God drop down on them petty demons, scattering them away. When this thing is smacking the forces of hell around, they manage to make you hear the sound of their bones crunching up from the inside of their bodies. Plus the drive charge, giving off the sound of dormant power that's just waiting to be released. Man, Itsuno was committed to sell DMC's power fantasy when it came to sound design, knocking it out of the park with this blade alone. Having said that, how did DMC4 handle the skeleton claymore sound effects? Well, the sword has never been smoother when it comes to cutting things through every single wind slash, handing over anime feels on steroids. Every single cut is smooth, not to mention the charge. You can hear every single bit of lightning zapping on the blade itself, along with that shown in Dragon Ball Z style whoosh. It's legendary. When them slashes come out, oh man, it is something else. So yeah, DMC4's Claymore is the pitch perfect definition of what an anime Claymore sounds like. We have DMC5's Rebellion, leaning into realism, sharing DMC4's same idea of smooth slashes, adding more Wolverine skinting, making this thing a real cutter, slashing everything up. Unfortunately, there's no drive present for this Rebellion. However, the Devil Sword Dante has it. The anime charge is here, including the electricity. It's like the DMC4 version, but slightly muted. It's not bad or anything. It's pretty damn good, giving off the feeling of dormant power, waiting to be released all at once, all that good shit. But DMC4 had a much better drive sound effect. Then we get to DSD's own slashing sound. The same idea as the Rebellion, but slightly echoier, because of that heft. Take this! So yeah, the slashes in 5 do have some pretty good sound design. Sadly, they aren't pronounced as they were in DMC4. Let's rank the swooshes and clangs through the sound's top 4. In the number 4 spot is Devil May Cry 2. Some of these SFX don't really cut it right. They're missing that oomph. In the number 3 spot is Devil May Cry 5. If I'm being honest, the sound effects here are really good. On the other hand, I think DMC4 did a much better job, sound effects wise. Speaking of which, taking the number 2 spot is Devil May Cry 4 for them great slashing skints when it comes to every single strike, especially the charge-ups. Taking that number 1 spot is Devil May Cry 3. I'm just a sucker for those crunchy ass sound effects that managed to deliver the sheer heft of this huge fuck-off sword. Now that the warm-up match has been dealt with, we move on to the main event. The Claymores are now fighting to the last breath for the Heavyweight Claymore Championship Title. Let's get ready to rumble! Time to turn up the heat with the first serious category, and that is Moveset. First up, we're gonna delve into Devil May Cry 2's Rebellion. This game has a shit ton of moves. They're pretty cool looking. I'm surprised they're even in here. Some that I just discovered by complete accident, since DMC2 doesn't tell you how to pull off anything, so you're expected to dick around with that lock-on and triangle. First things first, there are no pause combos whatsoever. Most of the button presses are 1-2-3 sequences, including the AB combo, and the rest of the moves with or without lock-on. Aiming adds in some of the gunslinger moves, in particular using that shotgun. Lock-on 2 triangle taps, plus a push of the square button. You guessed it, I managed to pull off the fireworks. I tested out 3 button presses and look at what I got. The precursor to the backslide. Only this time it shoots forwards, adding some much needed style. DMC2 does have a stinger, and it's kinda...
You serious?
It's practically useless for getting back into the action. It's fine at close range, using it to get close to far-off enemies, well, you're shit out of luck. No dashes whatsoever. Even the moan and sound effects are the most uninspired sound files mixed for this sword. However, I managed to find this nice little Kratos dash. Dante can pull it off after dropping from height. When dropping down, input the stinger command, dashing into this Royal Guard looking pose, knocking a few demons back. Through a mini dash, looking better than the main stinger, inspiring Kratos to do the same later on. In Devil Trigger, the edgy coin flipper man will wind up pulling off a sweep kick, tripping enemies up. Thanks for letting me know that I could do this in DT, Dante. I really appreciate it, my guy. This won't be a Devil May Cry without high time launchers, raising them demons high in the sky, jumping after them at the same time. Introducing the air kicks. The first time a DMC game has ever had air melee attacks. For the most part, they're decent. It would have been 10 times better if Dante was allowed to swing the sword while airborne. It could have given you much better control over your trajectory in the air. The kicks and flips look cool. Problem is I have little to no control over it. Dante drifts around everywhere. For better aerial attacks, you can pull off the round trips. When you're flying around in DT, they can absolutely melt these weak AI candle brain demons, bosses included. Unfortunately, there's no million stab in human form. It's there when you're DT'd. Dante will charge up a Kamehameha, just a million stab. It's good for damage and crowd control. Helm breakers are here, breaking devils apart from their formation. In DT, it becomes a lot like Nero's fully exceeded Helm Splitter, adding to that damage output. DMC2 managed to surprise me by the amount of moves that it has. I went in thinking it had nothing at all. Since it's DMC2 we're talking here, most of these tricks are gonna be left to the wayside. Next up, we got the Rebellion's return in Devil May Cry 3, handing in them pause combos back. The A and B combos can be pulled off once again by timed pauses in between each push of the triangle button. Once you mash that triangle button thrice, you end up getting Dante's standard 3-hit combo, ending in a huge fuck-off slam, breaking a few enemies off your back. Combo B gets Dante to 360 the sword over his head for an alright AoE. It's nothing too major, something handy to keep a few creepy crawlies off your back. Let's not forget, Combo B gets the wacky woohoo pizza man to million stab him demons, making him turn to Swiss cheese. For the life of me, I can't seem to time the skewer right. When it comes to Combo B, I have to resort to stinger triangle mash buffers, like an amateur. Let's be real for a second. Million stab in 3 is iconic. All the way from the dope-ass looking animation of Dante going ham with them silver chariot strats, poking gaping holes at anybody who opposes him, to the yellow golden pentagram signs that emit from Dante, to that shink sound along the whirling visual and sound effect, to the impact of that last pierce, paired with that immaculate grunt, timed perfectly with that pierce. Shit is, how can I put this? The epitome of absolute stylish masculinity, pummeling its way through the forces of hell. Not only is it just a cool looking trick, It's one of the most useful skills in the game for damage and crowd control. I'll get to these aspects later in their respective categories. Million Stab is also a tool that has a ton of flexibility.
What do you mean by that?
Rebellion can be buffered with absolutely anything in its animations, allowing you to switch to anything. Switch the weapon, input the attack, then it comes out, making you look cooler because of it. You can output a Million Stab in a buffer while pulling off anything. It shall come out perfectly. My favorite one is the Aura Pummel, then going all Silver Chariot on these poor bastards that are being beaten on. Best part about the Million Stab, by extension most of the Rebellion's toolkit, is how cancelable it is. If you're about to get hit from the back, pulling off a skewer, you can dodge out of the way. The commitment ain't high at all. Most of the attacks are cancelable, except for Helmbreaker and Drive. Those are high commitment. That Helmbreaker can spread out entire crowds like it's no one's business, dealing some pretty decent damage. This is the Drive's first appearance. It ain't no overdrive, just one shockwave. At best, this trick is a great combo starter and finisher, not exactly what you'd use in the middle of one. Shit, I just realized that I almost forgot to mention Stinger. A much better improvement over the DMC2 one. You have an actual dash, clearing large gaps with ease. You even have Dante moving at a breakneck speed, ending off in a brutal ass stab, culminating with that majestic, pulled off by the one and only Ruben Langdon. Time to get into the huge elephant in the room, Swordmaster, adding more necessary tricks to the melee weapons, kicking it off with the Prop Shredder, 2 of them in fact, as the wacky woohoo pizza man spins the Rebellion around. Full 360, mistaking the sword for a pizza slicer. The first time it's pulled off, it can launch a guy in the air. The second time around, it will keep enemies in place. Pretty good for starting a combo. You can put it in the middle of one too. All of that good shit. Check this out. Level 2 Swordmaster gets Dante to throw Rebellion directly at one devil. It can hit upwards of 2 of them, dealing brutal damage. Getting it a push kick. Killer B is a thing in the air too. You can call the Rebellion back towards you. It'll return a lot like a round trip, spinning and hitting any dumbass demon who happens to be close to you. Pretty damn ingenious. When you're airborne, a push of the circle button up top, air melee attacks are here. Instead of kicks you got no control over, it's way easier to stay airborne because of the sword swings. I mean, come on, let's be real. Swinging a sword in the air is way more stylish than kicks. It also doesn't hurt that it's an easy jump cancel to stay in the air longer. I see this as an absolute win. Level 3 Swordmaster unlocks the Dance Macabre, starting off with DMC2's Kratos Shove, spiced using a bit of a trickster dash. You get combo A and B in the same breath on 2 times speed, ending in a Million Stab. Once you mash that button, the wacky woohoo pizza man mistakes his sword for a pole, swinging on the damn thing. I mean, my lord, how are Dante's hands not even bleeding? My boy is going on a roll, ending on a huge ass slash, wiping off most of your enemies from the face of reality. DMC3's Rebellion has a ton of kick-ass moves that are not only stylish, they are pretty damn practical. Good old Devil May Cry 4 Rebellion. A lot of the moves are a lot like what we got in DMC3, with a few tweaks, including a replacement, along with upgrading a particular move that was desperately needed. Combo A is the same 3-hit combo y'all are used to using. Same inputs and everything. Check this out, Combo B is here. It's much easier to pull off than it is in 3. Ending in a Million Stab, featuring that beautiful looking red glow. Then there's High Time, launching your enemies up high while jumping after them. Helmbreaker is here too, breaking up a few crowds. Of course, this won't be a Rebellion without Stinger, dashing into them demons with an added red glow. I'm liking this addition to the sword. Shows Dante's power on full display. Indeed, it's a whole ass vortex, moving forwards to delete just about everything in your way. Million Stab looks nice, but I can't shake the feeling that it's missing something. That speedy power DMC3 had, I feel like they took out a lot of what made it useful, since it doesn't pummel as much as it did the last time around. Even the crowd control ain't the best here. I'll get to that later. Instead of throwing the blade directly at anybody, the round trip returns, holding enemies in place. You don't even get any kicks or bare-fisted moves. What the hell was that for? I can only switch to Gilgamesh or Lucifer. I can call it back if I want to anyways, by pushing triangle. Swordmaster adds in them extra tools to the arsenal. Prop Shredder is like how it was in 3. Same functionality, red light included. Air Rave is there, allowing you to hit up enemies in the air. Swinging Rebellion like in 3. Drive in 4 has been ridiculously buffed. Instead of the one shockwave the last game had, you can bust out 3 of them. It's called Overdrive. Not only does it look stylish as fuck, It can slay entire armies, managing any crowds giving you a hard-ass time. Remember Dance Macabre in 3? Well, it made its way over here too, fusing up combo A and B, giving off a million stab, drive slashes, to a literal baseball swing, using the perfect swing technique, getting in that home run finish. DMC4's Rebellion is pretty solid. There are a few things it could have kept from DMC3, like faster million stabs. Sword Pierce would have been nice too, but hey, it is what it is, I guess. Devil May Cry 5 Rebellion, where should I start with you? The skills here are a lot like the Devil May Cry 4 moves. AB combos, Stinger, Helmbreaker, Million Stab, High Time, it's all here. Minus that drive hold from DMC3, using Round Trip to hold a few devils in place. For some decent crowd control strats. For how the moves work, Million Stab can catch more than one demon, keeping its iconic aesthetic, without the ability of going for longer like it did in the third title, keeping that red glow that was in Devil May Cry 4. Hell, the Stinger maintained that reddish dash it had in 4, plus the DT Black Hole Stinger, helping out with crowd control. It ain't too shabby when it comes to any sort of damage. Combos A and B are pretty much like how you remember them to be, plus the Helmbreaker, grinding a few fools from up top, smashing their skulls in. High Time is here to lift demons off the ground. Switch over to that Swordmaster for some air rave combos. For that juggle, it's easily jump cancelable. Not to mention switch canceling is way easier using it. Well, I just brought up Swordmaster. Prop Shredder returns. One to lift enemies off sky high. A second push of the stall button keeps them in place. It's still a solid combo extender, coming in handy for that parry. For all you Royal Guard plebs. Now let me ask, where the hell is that Rebellion skill called Overdrive? I wonder where it has gone. You know, the one move getting Dante to throw 3 OP shockwaves, clearing a room full of uglies. Well, it's gone. Replacing it is the goddamn Round Trip. It's a good defensive option, helping out in some crowd control situations. It's a nice trick, alright. However, Overdrives desperately need to make a damn comeback. I'll get to you very shortly. Hey, check this out. Dance Macabre is back in full 4K. The same combo A and B to mini drives, mixed in with that DMC4 baseball swing, dealing some fuck-off damage, no distortion required. Can't forget about that Devil Sword Dante, carrying the same basic moveset as Rebellion, with a few added tweaks. Okay, major-ass tweaks. For one, most of the Swordmaster tricks are baked into the standard moveset, making one hell of a larger than Johnny's Rooster of a difference. For one, Aerial Rave is pulled off in the air without Swordmaster. That's right, tapping the triangle button off of the ground causes the wacky woohoo pizza man to start swinging the sword. No circle button attached to it. Wanna drop down through Helmbreakers? Well, I've got news for you. Lock on down triangle. The same exact input as Nero's Helm Splitter, meaning you stay in whatever style that isn't Swordmaster, yet you're still cutting them. Upstairs. Guess Star Raves are easier to pull off. Prop Shredder is a product of a combo C, lifting demons or keeping them in place. Check this out. The legendary Overdrive is back, baby! Oh my lord, it's as glorious as you remember it being. Glowing sword, 3 shockwaves in 4K definition. Oh darling, how I've missed you so. You might be wondering, well, what about Swordmaster? It has received some much needed
motivation.
Introducing them pizza slicing summon swords, affecting each style differently. With Swordmaster they can high time, air rave, doubling your own damage output. Or you can make Dante look like he has 0 fucks to give. Hold that style button for Round Trip. Going 2 ways. Pizza Slicer of Death on his back, protecting you from a few incoming attacks. Leave the stall button, it'll be thrown around like the Aquila from that one shitty reboot everyone hated, managing an entire horde, doing a much better job than the throwable one, allowing you to go for whatever sort of combo you'd like. Dance Macabre is the same exact as the Rebellion one, needing a back-forth input. Like I said, the other styles are affected. In Trickster you get more Sky Stars, making the dashes a lot faster. In Royal Guard the swords form a makeshift shield. Royal Blocks get slightly easier because of it. Gunslinger gets you to pull off a Virgil, shooting the summon swords. Get this, on Swordmaster using the other weapons, them slicers will extend your attacks, even keeping an enemy in place in some instances. For that KO! In DT you'll get access to them style boosts, or charge up the DSD to use it temporarily. Let's rank them up real quick. In the number 5 spot is DMC2's Rebellion. Sure, it does offer up a ton of moves, even a few that'll be nice to make a comeback. Problem is, the game doesn't tell you how to do most of them, and some staple moves have been gimped. In the number 4 spot, we got Devil May Cry 4's Rebellion. Although it carries a lot of the same moves that DMC4 had, saddest part about the whole thing is stripping away that overdrive. In the number 3 spot, we got Devil May Cry 4's Rebellion. Despite that sweet overdrive, it's lacking a few tricks that made DMC3's a crap ton of fun to play with. Taking the number 2 spot is Devil Sword Dante, for the much needed quality of life improvements of getting Swordmaster tricks in the base moveset, not to mention the style-altering summon swords, adding in new dimensions, not only to Rebellion's swordplay, by extension Dante's entire gameplay style. In the number 1 spot is DMC3's Rebellion. The reason for it being here is due to that variety it has, with individual movesets, Hyper Million Stab, Sword Pierce, insane-ass Dance Macabre. Despite the weak drive, the flexibility is why I put this sword over the others, including Devil Sword Dante. The next major league category we have is crowd control, kicking it off with DMC2. Now that Rebellion has some pretty good crowd control. In Devil Trigger, when you're out of DT, you can only hit 2 guys at best. That's all about it, man. However, using the air round trip with fire or electricity, you'll be hitting up multiple devils. Not to mention that DT Million Stab. Even Helm Splitter can break a few demons apart. If you want to be able to control entire armies, the Fire Gem is your best friend. Most of the slashes are large AoEs. Would have been nice to see some more crowd control options, but since it's DMC2, most of the time you'll be shooting everyone up, so you won't notice it. Next up is Devil May Cry 3, and oh lord, is that crowd control legendary! First off, a regular swipe catches 3 demons in one time. Combo B can catch up to 4, with Million Stab catching 5 guys at the least. That's when you're on the style rank dope. Raise that bad boy up to stylish. Then Million Stab goes on for way longer, catching 20 to 30 demons plus, while the wacky woohoo pizza man goes ham on that silver chariot strat. Alright Dante, we get it! Cool it already, bruv, they're already shish kebabbed. Stingers can knock back a fuck ton of devils away from your general direction. Same thing goes for that Sword Pierce. When we're talking about managing a large slew of enemies, Dance Macabre is here to answer that demand, coming in with that crazy Million Stab. Not forgetting the infamous Sword Dance, spinning round and around. I mean, Dante, how the fuck did you not cut your paws open? Keeping large crowds at bay, using that final strike coming after that Sword Dance, scattering everybody away from you. So yeah, DMC3 is nothing short of excellent when we're talking about crowd control. Moving over to Devil May Cry 4, the sword has some pretty good crowd control properties. Regular slashes fare nicely, dealing with 3 or more guys. Million Stab is pretty good at this whole crowd control shtick. But here's the thing, it ain't DMC3 Million Stab. You won't find it catching a full room of creepy crawlies trying to get at you, which is kind of a disappointment, I'm not gonna lie to you on that one. DT'd Stingers more than make up for the lacking Million Stab, having Dante rush through a whole entire hallway full of devils, wrecking their shit, tearing that formation up, killing their chances of ganging up on you. Switching over to Swordmaster, the glorious overdrive is here, scattering away a room chock full of pests, breaking apart large formations. Round Trip is a decent tool to manage a few crowds, while busting out other tools. Dance Macabre can be pretty solid on crowd control. Doesn't hurt that it has a longer Million Stab, plus the baseball swing at the end. Then comes DMC5's Rebellion, coming in with ass crowd control. It can only catch 3 guys, using basic attacks. Sure, Combo B can catch 4 to 5 people, but come on man, DMC3 caught 5 demons on basic attacks alone, including a Million Stab that only catches 5 devils! I mean, come on! Devil May Cry 3 was in 2006! It was silver charioting entire armies before delivering the ultimate smackdown, knocking them back into oblivion. Thank God the DT Vortex Stinger works like how it did in Devil May Cry 4, shoving entire hordes away from your face. Dance Macabre is pretty decent at managing a whole slew of demons away from you, mini drives and baseball swing included. Speaking of drives, tough shit. Rebellion has no such thing. Instead, it's a round trip, catching only a few people. That's all she wrote for the Greatsword. The crowd control options in DMC5 suck.
Officer Bowles.
Here comes the Devil Sword Dante to fulfill these crowd control needs that were so desperately missing in some unexpected ways. Basic attacks can manage a bit more than 5 demons, and it's kinda sad that Million Stab mostly manages the same number of crowds as Rebellion. Making up for it is that magnificent overdrive, breaking away mostly everybody, handling entire legions. from trying to kill you all at once. Plus, Dance Macabre is a lot beefier, meaning it can handle larger numbers of devils, since it's a big sword. Most of the other crowd control stuff comes from Swordmaster, especially sword formation. Using the summon sword round trips, along with the summon swords, you'll catch more than 5 demons, especially the Aquila strat trip. Open sword plus sword slinger will extend your attacks, already handing over more crowd control opportunities. The best part is you don't have to be using the Devil Sword Dante itself. That's when you have the sword formation up. Then there's the crowd control's top 5 list. Number 5 on the list is Devil May Cry 2's Rebellion. The only decent crowd control comes in when you're in Devil Trigger, but in human form, well gee, ain't it a stinker, Doc? In the number 4 spot we got Devil May Cry 5's Rebellion. It ain't bad, it's kinda mid. When we're talking about crowd control, the number 3 spot goes to that Devil Sword Dante. An amazing blade on crowd control, changing up them Devil Arm attacks in Devil Trigger and sword formation, plus the Swordmaster's own summon swords, incorporating the majestic overdrive. On its own without the summon swords, it's decent but weaker than the next 2 spots. Number 2 on this here list is Devil May Cry 4's Rebellion, because of the superior crowd control. Yes, overdrive is definitely insane here, fending off whole ass armies, even basic attacks. Can hold off a few demons. However, the number 1 spot is way better for crowd control. In the number 1 spot is Devil May Cry 3's Rebellion. My dude, a ton of the standard attacks can catch a ton of enemies in one strike. Not to mention that insane million stab in Dance Macabre, keeping many demonic hordes under your control. Then we've got damage kicking it off with Devil May Cry 2. I gotta say, man, it's great on damage. Whacking anything using the claymore will kill it a lot faster than filling it with bullets. Devil Trigger will make sure that bosses and enemies have the quickest dirt nap with that fire or electrical gem. I mean, it's madness! Devil May Cry 3 goes crazy on damage. Pull off the right moves and one enemy can be killed off by just whacking him. No DT or nothing. Stinger can also dish out some punishment, taking out 2 health strips. Using Million Stab can be broken at Triple S. Not only killing off one devil directly in front of the skewer, it kills off a huge ass number of them, knocking back the other guys who are already one push of the triangle button away to their inevitable deaths. Then we get Dance Macabre's ending slash, also dealing fuck off death defying damage, killing off most of those devils who are dumb enough trying to fight off this wacky woohoo pizza giga Chad goober. Even the sword pierced aerial rave can wound a few demons badly, not to mention drives wiping most of that health bar away. Devil May Cry 4 dropped on the scene coming in with some pretty high damage output on combos A and B alone, deleting most devils. Stinger DT Vortex can take out many devilish hordes, killing all of them. One drive can do a fuck ton of damage, as well as making many demons bleed, till their petty souls have been damned to oblivion, leaving their corpses rotting into ashes. Dance Macabre mini drives, plus the baseball swing, aren't so bad on their own, axing everything off of the map. Aerial raves aren't as strong as they were in DMC3, dealing little damage only. It's fine for air combos. All that stuff is fine and dandy, no issues whatsoever. Especially when you have Overdrive mowing down every single demonic horde in front of you. Rebellion in DMC5 is decent on damage. It ain't what I would call overpowered, or weak, it's alright, doing the amount of damage expected of it, not dealing any insane damage, except for Stinger. Dance Macabre still pulls off fuck off damage, but once you get to Million Stab, it ain't as strong as how it was in DMC3, doing slightly less damage. Round Trip ain't the strongest attack in this title, only keeping most devils at bay. Devil Sword Dante. Surely this will be the long sword to truly pull off more damage than any of the other rebellions because of that hefty build. Devil May Cry 3 still takes the cake for unadulterated damage. Not to mention that almost all of the basic DSD attacks do the same amount of damage as Rebellion. The saving grace it does have is that overdrive, wiping off entire hordes right off the map. On to the top 5 list based on damage. In the number 5 spot is DMC5's Rebellion. It ain't weak or anything. Compared to the other Rebellions, it's the one doing the least damage. In the number 4 spot is the DSD. I was expecting it to pull off a bit more damage, but sadly it's marginal, due to a couple of moves adding in some damage output. Number 3 on the list is DMC4's Rebellion. This thing is powerful to say the least. Not as powerful as DMC3's Rebellion. On the other hand, it packs quite a punch. with or without distortion, killing off enemies and bosses pretty quickly. Number 2 on the list is DMC3's Rebellion, dealing a ridiculous amount of damage, especially once you wind up raising that style meter, taking out whole ass armies, no DT burst included. Number 1 on the list is DMC2's Rebellion, for pulling off ridiculous damage in and out of DT, quickly annihilating a ton of bosses in a blink of an eye.
We come to the grandstand of crowning the World Heavyweight Greatsword Championship Title. Time for the grand top 5!
Number 5 on the list is Devil May Cry 2. The Rebellion here is not a bad sword or anything. It's kinda lacking in a few things, like an impactful stinger, better crowd control, all of that good stuff. Number 4 on the list is Devil May Cry 5's Rebellion. Alright, the moves that it has are the standard Rebellion moves. On the other hand, crowd control and damage wise, they have been nerfed. Plus taking out some crucial moves, axing drives and replacing it with a weak ass round trip. In the number 3 spot is Devil May Cry 4's Rebellion for its high ass damage output. Not to mention introducing that beautiful ass overdrive. Managing crowds, killing a shit ton of demons. Even basic attacks are enough to slap them devils around hard. Number 2 on this here list is the infamous Devil Sword Dante. I mean, bruv, this thing on its own changes how the Rebellion plays, with a shit ton of quality of life improvements, like the Swordmaster moves being a part of the Rebellion's basic toolkit, by extension changing up how each of Dante's styles work entirely, allowing you to get as creative as you'd like with them summon swords.
And the winner of the World Heavyweight Claymore Championship Title, Devil May Cry 3 Rebellion!
I gotta say, man, as a Claymore, it has it all. Crowd control is top tier, doing king damage. It doesn't hurt that it's the most bufferable one in the series, getting you to style as much as you want. With that out of the way, we come to the end of this video. What were your guys' thoughts on it? In which Rebellion deserves the World Greatsword Championship title? Let me know in the comments down below. I would like to thank everybody for making it to the end of this huge matchup. I'm really happy that a lot of you guys have been watching the videos and shorts. It really means a lot to me that my videos are being watched and enjoyed. So I hope that y'all got something out of this video and had a good time watching it. I know it's been a long time coming. This video has been kicking my ass cheeks to make, so I took my sweet ass time working on it. But at the end, I know it's worth it, since y'all are gonna enjoy this one. So if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button stinger million stab style. At 10,000 subscribers, I'll pull off a real-life Dante combo in full cosplay. Your boy's got the right accessories for the party. Ring the bell icon with an ebony and ivory bullet to get notified on whenever I drop a brand new Devil May Cry or other action game video. This has been the Devil Joe signing out.
Alright, you wanna play? Let's play. That's enough!